Hello. Today is Monday, July 28th, 2025. This is a sideshow. I'm Theodore Parker. And the show is coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky, on the east coast of the United States. World map behind me. And in the weather today, in this location, we're still in our summer months. Currently, the temperature is 79, feels like 85. After having come through the weekend, one of those days it stayed it's registered 90 degrees, and the sun had gone down, and that was in the evening. So here we are for today, Monday, July 28, 2025. The weather in this area. Heat advisory from Monday, 12 noon p.m. Eastern Daylight Time until Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Considerable cloudiness, highs in the low 90s and lows in the low 70s. Currently, and it's 9:05 a.m. here. Poor weather for running right now. Poor weather for cycling right now. Good weather for gardening right now. The AQI is good at 25. The UV index is low. It's calm with a 1 mile per hour wind. Today, sunrise was at 6:37 a.m. and sunset will be at 8:50 p.m. So there was another advisory, south to sea dangerous heat, possible records as Midwest and Northeast eye pattern change. So for the next few days here in the South, this heat dome is going to be lingering around. There was some information from the Weather channel in regards to this, so I did want to share it with you because it affects more than one area. Tired of the heat? We are too. If you're in the South, you're going to want to buckle in for several more days of punishing temperatures. We do have some good news for those of you in the Midwest and Northeast, though. After another spike of summertime heat, a pattern change will usher in a burst of cooler air, setting up a temperature split where the Midwest and Northeast gets some much needed relief while the South continues to swelter. Sizzle South. A dome of high pressure will stay parked over the South, sending temperatures soaring to a peak early in the week. Highs in the mid to upper 90s will be widespread, with many places forecast to flirt with the century mark. Add in everyone's favorite, humidity, and the feels like temperatures will be well into the triple digits. Dozens of daily record highs could be approached in the Southeast through the midweek, including cities like Savannah, Mobile, Tampa, and Orlando. There's some possible light at the end of the tunnel though. The cooler air bringing some relief to the Midwest and Northeast midweek could eventually sink further southward, slowing dropping temperatures in the Southeast states late in the week and into next weekend. So I just wanted to let you know those bits of information about the weather. And again, the advisory is, be willing to slow down, stop if necessary, get you a cool beverage, and let your body relax for a little bit, depending on what you have to do and what time of day it is. This next little segment, before I get into the news and the top stories for today, I entitled My Opinion. If you were not aware, the sideshow has been on the air for 5 years this year. And I wanted to express my appreciation for your continued viewership. In those 5 years, you may have noticed that some things I don't express personal points of view on. There's an expression that goes like, don't discuss religion and politics at the dinner table. Just a good rule of thumb. But since this is a content show that is based on current news items, then if it's in the news, then I will mention it. Nonetheless, there is a reason, well, actually 2 reasons, that I don't comment on religious beliefs. And as far as politics is concerned, it's not so much politics as what the politicians are doing that gets reported in the news. So the first one, religion. I don't give personal views on religion for 2 reasons. Number 1, I'm not perfect, and I do believe that none of you in the viewing audience are perfect. So that's one reason why I don't preach at you about religious beliefs. The second thing is this. Now, just kind of slow your brain house and group down a little bit and take in what I'm getting ready to say, please. We have 3 major religions in the world today: Muslim, Jewish, and Christians, okay? Now, notice that Muslims, Jews, and Christians, or whatever order you want to say it in, have one location on this planet that they all consider to be holy in their worship. Okay. For the Muslims, it's Mecca. For the Jews, same location, because that's where the temple stood in Jerusalem. And for Christians, that's the place that Jesus Christ walked the earth. Okay, so let me just kind of define it a little bit more. If you look on the calendar, Muslims have Ramadan, Jews have Hanukkah, and Christians have Easter. And they're all grouped together at the same time on the calendar and overlap. Now, that being said, do you think that since they all have the same location on this planet, does that validate their religion? Or does that validate that God does exist? Okay, I don't want you to overthink it. I just want to put it out there that you have at it for a little bit. Like I said, don't overthink it. Moving along, the expression Christmas in July. Up till this weekend, I had heard it, just filed it away, and went on from there. But I was out this weekend and I happened to see a poster that had that title on it, Christmas in July. And the explanation was school supply drive. So I read the information from it, come to find out that Lextran, the city's bus service, had a drive on Friday. I did not know about it previously. School supply drive from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. for school supply donations. So I thought that was a good thing. I just thought I'd put it out there. The way things go in this country, I'm sure this is not the only city that has that arrangement, but it's the first time I have seen it. So Christmas in July. The news for today, Monday, July 28, 2025. Number one, Lexington shootings result in 2 deaths and multiple injuries. A tragic incident in Lexington involves the death of 2 women and injuries to several others, including a state trooper. The events unfolded after a traffic stop led to a carjacking and shooting outside a church. The suspect was shot and killed by police during the confrontation. Community officials are calling for healing and reflection on public safety. That item had been in the news a few days ago, so this is the follow-up to that. Sunday headlines: prayers for Josh Hines Allen and son Wesley. Former Kentucky football star Josh Hines Allen announced on X Friday afternoon that his son Wesley was diagnosed with leukemia 7 months ago. Excuse me. Thankfully, Wesley is on the path to a full recovery. Hines Allen credited Nemours Children's Health for their efforts in assisting Wesley in his battle with cancer and shared that in honor of their son's strength, the Hines Allen Families for FOUR One for All Foundation is planning to launch for FUR One for Hope, which will give back to 4 cancer-focused nonprofits each month of this year's NFL season. Next one. Husband who choked wife to death had arrived home early to surprise her and found cues she was expecting another man to come over, police say. New information has emerged in the case of a 49-year-old Texas man who allegedly admitted to killing his wife and hiding her body in their home, living with the remains for more than a month before he was arrested. Charles V. Bird was taken into custody last week and charged with 1 count of felony tampering with evidence with the intent to impair a human body in the death of Angela Bird, records reviewed by Law and Crime show. At this point, Charles Bird has been charged with tampering with evidence with intent to impair a human corpse. He allegedly provided detectives with the Sheriff's Homicide Unit details about fatally attacking his wife. Charles Bird is being held at the Bexar, Bexar County Jail on a $200,000 bond. Salazar said that he likely will face at least a murder charge once the autopsy results are released. So the details that remain: the man came home, like the title says, and got into an argument with his wife about what he thought was about to happen. Ended up choking her, biting her several times on the face, and then wrapped her up in plastic and then in a rug and put her in the closet. So a relative of the woman, after not having heard from her, got concerned, contacted the police, and they went in, and that's what they discovered. So nothing else. People do have routines, people do talk to people, and Like anybody, if you have somebody you talk to regularly and you don't hear from them, you have, that's your opportunity to speak up about it. So that's the situation. The school that Charles Byrd worked at as a janitor fired him once it became known that he had been arrested, and also included a comment that his janitorial duties did not involve him being around students. So that's a little trip here and there. And the next news item brings us to Kentucky. Kentucky governor sends letter to President Trump urging him to oppose move to block rescheduling of cannabis. As you know, the public is aware that some states have approved the use of recreational marijuana. Other states are just broaching the door with the medical aspects of marijuana as treatment for various illnesses and conditions. Where Kentucky is, they're just getting around to the medical part of it. So, Governor Andy Beshear sent a letter to President Donald Trump asking him to oppose congressional appropriations language that would block the Drug Enforcement Administration from rescheduling marijuana under the Controlled Substances Act. And I'm going to kind of share this verbatim again. When I do that, it's because of the details that are not common knowledge. If rescheduling is seen through, marijuana would be reclassified from a Schedule 1 drug to a Schedule 3 drug, officially recognizing its medical value. Patients suffering should have access to safe cannabis for treatment, and rescheduling would help provide more Americans and Kentuckians relief, said Governor Beshear. This step would also help make our community safer and fuel more meaningful research around cannabis that could help more people. In the spring of 2024, the DEA proposed a rule that would reschedule marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, which would define marijuana as having a moderate to low potential for physical and psychological dependence. The proposal was made at the urging of the U.S. Department for Health and Human Services, which recognizes that cannabis has medical uses and is currently being used for medical purposes. Earlier this month, the U.S. House Appropriations Subcommittee on Commerce, Justice, Science, and Related Agencies passed fiscal year 2026 appropriations language that would prohibit the U.S. Department of Justice, under which the DEA operates, from using funds to reschedule cannabis from its current Schedule 1 listing. However, the Senate Appropriations Committee approved their version of the bill without the provision to block rescheduling. This is not common sense law, wrote the governor in his letter to the president. It stops a process that is already underway to accomplish a policy end that is overwhelmingly supported by the medical and scientific communities as well as the American people of every political party. Congress should not take the decision-making process out of the hands of medical and scientific experts when they don't like the results. So that was Governor Andy Beshear's letter to President Trump on moving cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, or not blocking it in language. Next item on the news, Ramir Satterwhite, man claiming to be JC's son, confirms he dropped fraud case, but not because he received a settlement or DNA test. They're using bully tactics, so we're playing chess. So we play chess. If I read it to you, even if the details are included, which they are, I don't know if you would understand it any better if I just tell you. So here we go. I'm going to just tell you. Okay, a while back, Jay-Z had been accused of having a son, this man, being spoken of here. And kind of the crux of it is that at the time, the woman was 16 and Jay-Z would have been 22. What kind of got the ball rolling was that she had submitted a request for a paternity test for one man and also for another man. The other man reported in, Jay-Z did not. That man's DNA paternity test proved that he was not this boy's father, who was now a man. Jay-Z did not report in. In the interim of this happening, she passed away in 2019. So this young man is being assisted with his submissions to the court by his aunt. They have about 8 cases swirling at this time. And this case that they dropped, fraud, was one of those cases. I don't know what else to tell you other than that. If you want to access it, then you get the names and the dates and various other things like that, what cases they filed and all of that. But that's the gist of it, you know. So I remember when the story first broke, and you know there was little or no response about it. So if anything, the way it's presented here, it would be focusing on the age difference, 16 and 22. So we've already seen that Jay-Z's name is dropped before on people talking, and that was cleared up. So we'll see how this goes and hope for the best. Ramirez saddled with weight. RYMIRSATTERTHWAITE. Ramirez Satterthwaite. Next one, tragic details about CNN anchor Abby Phillip. Black women speaking out. I will tell you about this one. Abby Phillip, as an anchor for CNN, is talking about her journey as a woman through pregnancy and childbirth, and at least 2 of the people that say she has had dealings with in her profession. So I will take the part about her pregnancy journey and Black women's medical health versus services in the medical community, health science, health field. So she's pregnant for the first time. First of all, I'm a man, so bear with me. Next is, I usually say, well, women are emotional. They're going to express things a little different than I would. So her concern was that she was not getting the proper attention on her first pregnancy. She was already apprehensive, new mother, new pregnancy, first time going through all this, et cetera, et cetera. So the doctor that she had, I understand you have your prenatal visits, and apparently it usually takes an hour at least. And this doctor was only taking like 30 minutes. So that right away kind of set off the alarms for her. So she searched around, found another, didn't really find a hospital. She selected a midwife. And so the midwife did the things that made her less anxious. She did take an hour for her exam, prenatal exam. And I guess the 30-minute thing would be like, just listen to the baby's heartbeat. Just listen to see if the baby's heartbeat is present. And that's may not be it in the condensed sense, but that's what it would center around. But the midwife was interested in, her whole pregnancy experience, to make sure she was on track, doing for herself, and also moving things toward a successful delivery. So that suited her just fine. So now she has, more children, but that caused her to come to grips with certain numbers, statistics on how Black women's mortality rate is different than white women's mortality rate during pregnancy, and especially focusing on delivery, which was her original concern. So, if you want to access that information, you are welcome to do so. And right now, it seems that several women are jumping in, explaining events that happened years ago that affected them psychologically, and health-wise. And she said that Selena Williams had experienced difficulties when she went in to deliver with her pregnancy. And so that's like additional confirmation that it's not just smooth sailing as is sometimes depicted. Hulk Hogan was being run into the ground before he died with work schedule while dealing with 25 surgeries in 10 years. As you know, Hulk Hogan has passed away in his 70s. And this article kind of details that the advice that he got from Andre the Giant when he first got into wrestling was, at some point when you first come into the sport as an observer, you figure there's no way the human body can take all that slamming and banging, so it's got to be fake. Okay, Hulk Hogan made the comment that fake as it may be, those slams and getting hit with chairs is real. So his body did take the proverbial beating, which resulted in these surgeries and other things. Both knees, both hips. And he had most recently went in before his passing for surgery on his neck, which they said went well. So his wife was saying, Sky Daily, the details pertaining to his passing, I guess, will be forthcoming and the arrangements that they will make. Ghislaine Maxwell's bombshell confession. Epstein's former lover insists the truth will come out and offers evidence on 100 different people during jailhouse meeting. You may or may not be aware that there were arrangements before the weekend for Ghislaine Maxwell's testimony in regards to things that the government, without saying which committee it was actually investigating, but the government was interested in getting some answers. So it seemed to have gone well in the sense that she did not invoke privilege. She answered every question. There seemed to be no withdrawing or hesitation about the information provided. It ended up being on about around 100 different people. Okay, the connection somewhat still in the question of Trump and Epstein. Her father, Ghislaine Maxwell's father, is connected to the Trump family. And on one occasion before Maxwell fell off the boat that he was on, died, that there had been some big occasion where Trump was invited Ghislaine was still very young. So, the world of business. It finally makes sense, Trump threatening to crack open the Epstein case to suddenly hiding behind bushes. So, if you haven't noticed, I've noticed that we have a president in the White House that says one thing one day and may or may not decide to acknowledge it the next. So that's kind of like where this article is at. And it's how it kind of flips and turns the way articles and reports are about President Trump. Okay. Sorry about that, folks. I'm looking for it as I sometimes have to. Whether I put it under saved or history is actually it. Okay, here we go. And this is from Politics. I don't think it's very long because most of them don't have to repeat themselves. Okay, excuse me. It all finally makes sense. Trump threatening to crack open the Epstein case to suddenly hiding behind bushes. New reporting from the Wall Street Journal has revealed a key moment that may explain the Trump administration's shifting approach to the Jeffrey Epstein files. According to the Journal, Attorney General Pam Bondi and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche told President Donald Trump during a White House meeting in May that his name appeared multiple times in the Epstein files. The revelation has sparked questions about what the administration knew and when they knew it. Critics are now looking back at statements made by Trump and his officials to see if they tried to mislead the public about information the Justice Department had regarding Trump's connections to the late convicted sex offender, especially given past evidence of Trump praising Jeffrey Epstein in his own writings. The Trump administration's suspicious behavior around Epstein files suddenly makes sense once you see what happened in May. Before this reported briefing, Trump's statements about the files included unusual qualifiers that he typically does not use when discussing investigations that interest him. After May, the administration's tone became notably more defensive and brief, even as his own MAGA supporters demanded full transparency on the Epstein files. Key changes in Trump's messaging after the May briefing. During the 2024 presidential campaign, Trump told Fox News that he release more information if reelected. However, he quickly added concerns about the impact on third parties and where there might be phony stuff in the government files. These are not typical concerns Trump raises about other investigations. More recently, Trump has said he supports releasing only credible information and pertinent grand jury testimony. He has also started blaming the Democratic Party and mainstream media for the focus on Epstein files, even though these groups had little direct involvement in creating the current situation. White House Communications Director Stephen Chung pushed back against criticism, calling reports nothing more than out-of-context frame grabs of obnoxious videos and pictures of widely attended events. He added that Trump kicked him out of his club for being a creep and called the coverage fake news stories concocted by the Democrats and the liberal media. The Justice Department called the journal's story a collection of falsehoods and innuendo. The administration's recent actions to gather more information also appear designed to look busy without producing meaningful results. They have moved to unseal grand jury testimony and are seeking information from Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's co-conspirator, who is serving a 20-year prison sentence. However, a Florida judge denied the request to unseal grand jury testimony this week, and Maxwell has seriously creditable problems that make her an unreliable source. These efforts share one more important feature. Their results are outside the government's control. The administration could release much of the material in its possession without needing permission from courts or unreliable witnesses, but has chosen paths that are likely to produce little new information while appearing to take action. Next one in the news, exclusive mysterious giant Elon Musk head travels America's national parks saying, "Make America wait again." So this is a giant sculpture head of Elon Musk. One of the features about it is that it gets his expression with the little smile, the turned down mouth, credibly correct. So the person that's driving this around is particularly going through the nation's national parks in that area. And the reason is because with so many budget cuts that have gone on, the Park Service has either reduced its number of forest rangers, and that has affected their ability to oversee all of the property. So this man's going around with this sculptured head of Elon Musk is supposed to bring that point to the fore, crowds there at the national park enjoying it, generate some questions, answers, and just everybody just have a look-see no matter what your reaction is to it. So that was the premise and the story. I will do this for you. If I can. Again, this is one of those situations. Just give me a moment or two, please. Saved history. I just wanted to at least provide the man's name so that, give him that much credit for his efforts. And here we go. Okay. During this high summer season, visitors to several of America's most iconic national parks have found themselves face to face with something unexpected. The towering 12-foot sculptured head of Elon Musk smirking confidently atop a trailer. It's flanked by patriotic stars and a two-part message, "Make America wait again." And in bold yellow below, now with longer lines thanks to Doge cuts. The sculptors made surprise appearances at Arches, Yosemite, and Mount Rainier national parks, drawing curious crowds and fueling viral conversations online. Now, the anonymous organizer behind the spectacle has come forward exclusively to Fox News Digital to explain why he built it, why he picked Musk, President Donald Trump's former Department of Government Efficiency leader and policy advisor, and why he wanted it seen in America's favorite outdoor spaces. I mentioned I wanted to share his name, but he decided to remain anonymous on that one. So, that concludes the stories that have made the headlines on today, Monday, July 28th. And then, as usual, you have your top stories. First one of top stories, the Michigan Walmart stabbing spree suspect identified as police seek terrorism assault charges for rampage. As is already stated, this happened in Michigan. And the details as follows. Police on Sunday identified the 42-year-old man accused of wounding 11 people in a random stabbing spree at a Walmart in Michigan. Authorities identified the suspect as Bradford James Gill of Afton, Michigan on Sunday afternoon. Police are seeking to file terrorism charges and 11 charges of assault with intent to murder against Gill, spelled G-I-L-L-E. Grand Traverse County Sheriff Michael Shea noted that Gill has a history of prior assault incidents as well as controlled substance violations. She added that a motive for the stabbing was not yet known. Shea previously said a 42-year-old man acting alone entered the Traverse City store and using a folding knife to stab nearly a dozen people. The suspect was taken into custody without injury within minutes. Citizens in Walmart also helped apprehend the man and treat victims. In a statement to Fox News Digital, Walmart spokesperson Joe Pennington said that violence like this is unacceptable. Our thoughts are with those who were injured, and we're thankful for the swift action of first responders, Pennington wrote in a statement. We'll continue working closely with law enforcement during their investigation. Elon Musk confirms Tesla has signed a $16.5 billion chip contract with Samsung Electronics. So this is a deal that Elon Musk has going. Elon Musk confirmed Tesla has signed a $16.5 billion chip contract with Samsung. Samsung did not name the counterparty, but said that the effective start date of the contract was July 26, 2025, receipt of orders, and its end date was December 31st, 2033. Samsung, which is set to deliver earnings on Thursday, expects its second quarter profit to more than halve. Arkansas couple killed at Devil's Den State Park while hiking with young daughters, suspect at large. Again, this is something that's emerging as particular to parks and wooded areas, recreational areas of that nature, in places where people go to enjoy the wide open doors. An urgent manhunt is underway after a husband and wife were killed at an Arkansas state park over the weekend while hiking with their two young daughters, according to police. Arkansas State Police were notified of a double homicide at Devil's Den State Park, located near the northwestern corner of the state, at about 2:40 p.m. on Saturday. Clinton Brink, 43, and Christian Brink, 41, were found dead on a walking trail, according to a press release. Their young daughters, ages 9 and 7, were uninjured and are now safe with family members, police said. The Brinks were new to the area, the press release notes, having recently moved to Prairie Grove, Arkansas from another state. The APS issued a description of the suspect: a white male with medium build, wearing a long-sleeve shirt with the sleeves rolled up, dark pants, a dark ball cap, sunglasses, and fingerless gloves. He was also carrying a black backpack, police said. The suspect was also seen driving toward a park exit in a black four-door sedan, possibly a Mazda, with tape covering the license plate. The vehicle may have been traveling on State Route 170 or 220, police said. Police described the park as a remote and rural area where the terrain is rugged, vegetation is thick, and there is no cell phone service. We're deeply saddened by the tragic events that occurred at Devil's Den State Park, Shay Lewis, Secretary of the Arkansas Department of Parks, Heritage, and Tourism, said in a statement. So even though they seem to be unrelated, park areas there bear a double look. Deputy fatally shot while responding to domestic disturbance call in Kansas City, Kansas. That title is kind of self-explanatory. I don't know how well you can see that, but that's a picture of the officer. A sheriff's deputy was killed on July 26 after being shot multiple times while responding to a domestic disturbance call in Kansas City, Kansas, authorities said. WYNDOTTE, W-Y-A-N-D-O-T-T-E County Deputy Elijah Ming, 34, and an officer from the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department responded to a call for civil standby at around 3:30 p.m. local time on July 26, the county sheriff's office said in a statement. As authorities approached the resident, the sheriff's office said a man opened fire and struck Ming. Multiple other sheriff's deputies and police officers then responded to the scene and exchanged gunfire with the suspect, according to the county sheriff's office and the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. The suspect, who was later identified as 38-year-old Sean Harris, was injured during the exchange of gunfire and barricaded himself inside the residence. Deputy Elijah Ming was killed from the injuries he received from the gunfire, WYNDOTTE County Sheriff Daniel Soptic said at a news conference on July 26. Deputy Ming worked for the sheriff's office for almost 9 years and was a loved member of this agency. Deputy Ming gave his life serving WYNDOTTE County and all its residents. The suspect was released from the hospital at about 11:30 a.m. on July 27 and was arrested for capital murder of a law enforcement officer, according to the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. He is currently being held without bond in the Johnson County Jail. Online inmate records show. The Kansas Bureau of Investigation said formal charges are pending and the investigation to the incidents remains ongoing. Bubba Wallace becomes first black driver to win Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Bubba said that since he now has a child, it's made a transformation in his focus in regards to what's important. So he said prior to his child being born that racing was really all he was concerned about. It's been a few years since he won a race, and I guess that right there kind of speaks to it. But he said now it's, his child, his family, and the things that are important to them as he celebrates his win at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Attack on East Coast Congo church by ISIS-backed rebels kills at least 34. Now, even though this is outside our country, the same as maybe a few days ago, as much as a week, there was extreme flooding in the Philippines. Now, it's that's an island in the Pacific, and we don't have daily feedback from them, but they are considered to be a part of the United States. So when something happens there like this, although it's centered around Manila, then we are made aware of it. Congo. The death toll from an attack on a Catholic church in eastern Congo by Islamic State-backed rebels has risen to 34, according to a civil society leader. The bodies of the victims are still at the scene of the tragedy, and volunteers are preparing how to bury them in a mass grave that we are preparing in a compound of the Catholic Church. Dudan Durantabo, a civil society coordinator in Komanda in the Ituri province, told the Associated Press. At least 5 other people were killed in an earlier attack on the nearby village of Machongani, from where a search is ongoing. They took several people into the bush. We do not know their destination or their number. Dusa Dekana, a civil society leader in Ituri, told the AP. Both attacks were believed to have been carried out by members of the Allied Democratic Force armed with guns and machetes. The military has confirmed at least 10 fatalities, while local media reports put the death toll at more than 40. A UN-backed radio station said 43 people were killed, citing security sources. It said the attackers came from a stronghold around 12 kilometers, 70 miles from the center of Komanda, and fled before security forces could arrive. The armed forces of the Democratic Republic of Congo, which has long struggled against the rebel group, has been facing attacks since the renewed hostilities between the Rwanda-backed M23. So it contains other incidents where these attacks can be traced back and what they are doing about the present situation. Passengers flee smoking American Airlines jet in Denver after aborted takeoff. This was kind of interesting. You know, people are on the plane and all of a sudden, shortly after it's trying to make its way into the air, there's a loud bang, and this was in Denver. So, passengers evacuated an American Airlines jet at Denver International Airport on emergency slides after the landing gear caught fire during an aborted takeoff, sending black smoke bellowing into the air. One of the 173 passengers was hospitalized with minor injuries while exiting the Boeing 737 MAX 8 that had been due to fly to Miami International Airport on Saturday, according to officials. Deion Sanders and his medical team will hold a press conference on Monday. Okay, that's kind of self-explanatory. I just shared some things with you about him taking time away on Friday. And so this is Monday, and they have a press conference scheduled. Deion Sanders and his medical team. And number 10 in the top stories, U.S. exceptionalism roars back as markets defy doomsayers and draw record foreign inflows after panic over Trump tariffs. Record foreign inflows after panic over Trump tariffs. With President Trump weekly, if not daily, saying one thing or the other about the tariffs, even up to 100% in some cases, the response, even though some analysts have said if there were to be any consumer effects on the tariffs, it would take a while to manifest itself. So, as I've stated before, One day Trump will say this, the next day Trump will say that on the same subject. So that's been reflected almost immediately in the market. So now they're saying, despite that, the market is moving well, especially with people having inflows to this country. So that's based on your treasury bonds, 10-year bonds, and things of this nature. I think what it caused the panic was, in the overall context, 1 trillion or so bonds had been withdrawn. Then there was a return to buying in the double-digit billions. So that's kind of what they're looking at. Long and the short, that's an explanation. So, Monday, July 28th, top 10 stories in the headlines and top 10 stories in your top 10 stories, excuse me. Still got summer to go, folks. Be careful out there. Heat. That's it. Hashtag.